Now, hello guys, welcome back to the Mad Lemon podcast. And today I'm really pleased to present you, not to present you, but to have as my guest, John Nevarez. Just give me a second because I need to. Okay, I just muted the live on the channel, so we are ready now.
Okay.
John, I will let you present yourself because I cannot even count the production you worked in and the production I admire and your work. So I will let you introduce yourself.
Cool. Thank you, Carmine. Thank you, first of all, for inviting me to this podcast. I'm honored and excited and happy. So thank you. So for me, I'm John Nevarez. I've been in the industry for about 23 years. I started at Disney TV as a storyboard revisionist, and my first shows were Pepper Ann and Kim Possible and a few others. And then I was lucky enough to jump over to Disney Toons where I started doing design. And then in about 2009, um, I was lucky enough to go to Pixar, worked on a few movies there. In 2014, I got laid off, and I actually decided to start working from home. And I've been doing that for the last 6 years. So it's been awesome and it's been amazing. So I've been lucky enough to do both storyboards and like visual development for films. And I've been also lucky enough to do it remotely and do it in house. And right now, I'm just working for Alcon Entertainment on a feature.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I can't say what it is, but it should be out in about 2 years. And while I'm working for them, I also mentor on the side. I help students, and I'm working on my own book. So I've just been lucky enough to do this and bounce around and work with great people.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
Cool. And first of all, I will repeat myself. I said off air that it's such a pleasure to have you here, and also that meeting you was kind of relief for me because I was saying even before that sometimes the people that are so talented and working in a really high production and that we consider like top artists like you are not always approachable, but you are really one of the kindest person I ever met in the industry and outside the industry as a human being, I will say. So thank you again, and I will explain you briefly how the things will go during the live, basically.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much for those kind words. I
No
just
problem.
thank you. I
No
mean,
problem.
someone, in a nutshell, someone helped me a long time ago
Yeah.
when I was trying to get in, and I always remembered that.
Yeah.
And so I always told myself, if I'm ever lucky enough to be, inside and to be somewhere, I wanted help. I need help
Yeah.
because, we're helping each other out. And
Yeah.
there's
That's true.
competition, but it's like there's opportunities there, and I want people to have those opportunities as well. So I feel like it's kind of, I don't know, my duty, my responsibility, I just want people to 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 enjoy and experience what I'm doing
Yeah.
because we keep the industry alive doing that, and so
Yeah, no, I truly agree that this is the kind of behavior that everyone that is reaching some stage of the career, it doesn't matter if it's the top or in the middle or whatever. If everyone can help other people to get in, or even to advise them how to get in, even not physically like with recommendation, with referral or such, but even show the world behind the creation in animation and industry in general. It's like the best for everyone.
yeah, it is.
And okay, so I was saying that the live will go basically like this. I have a sort of 10 questions list, which I will say to you and ask to you. And in the middle of the screen, the followers and the viewers can see there is a drawing pad. If you want, during the live, I will ask you if you want to draw and sharing your screen with Google Hangouts, and people can see you do amazing stuff.
Okay, sound good. Yeah.
Perfect. So I will start immediately with the question. And I will also thank you to the viewers now. They are growing fast. So, hello everyone again. And we are just about to get started. The first question is, when I met you in Dublin during your workshop, I was amazed by your story. You tell us your personal story, your origin story. So I want to ask you if you would like to share this even here in this interview. So how did you get your step in the drawing, not just in animation, but even when you start feeling this passion that brings you to where you are now?
Sure. I mean, yeah, I'd be happy to. I
Yeah,
kind of went the long way. Just to give you where I began.
yeah,
Uh, I'm from East LA. I was born and raised in East LA. It was very working class, a lot of Latino families. Very modest, hardworking, and so we didn't have a lot of money. We were,
yeah,
we weren't really poor, but we were just working class. My dad was a gardener, my mom was a seamstress, and I just remember them working hard to just try and provide for us. So let's see, I went to Garfield High School, and I was more, I told myself that I was going to focus more on mathematics and do that because I thought it was a safe job. I thought it
yeah,
was, something stable, something that I could probably make money. And I always drew, but I never took it seriously. I was always the kid in high school who drew,
yeah,
and people knew that, but I didn't pursue it seriously. I thought about it, but then I told myself, well, there really isn't anything I could do with it. This was before I kind of knew more about animation. So anyway, I focused on math.
mm-hmm.
We had Jaime Escalante. Jaime Escalante was my calculus teacher, and he was really famous at our high school there's a movie about him, Stand and Deliver. It features Edward James Olmos. It's about a high school where the teacher who originally was teaching algebra to the students, he challenged them and he taught them calculus so they can take an AP calculus test, AP advanced placement. It's a test that's given in the U.S. high schools. It's like a college course, and it gets them ready for college. And if they pass the test, you get college credit. It's really hard. So that's what he did. And so they took the test. It was like maybe 15, 20 students. They took the test, and they did really well. What happened was the testing agency, they were suspicious because, first of all, many of these kids didn't take anything higher than algebra, and all of a sudden they're taking calculus, and they got great grades. So they thought that was suspicious. So they had to take the test again, and then many of them had higher scores the second time.
Yeah.
So it put our high school on the map. Well, anyway, I say that because Jaime Escalante was my teacher, and he made math fun. So I pursued math. So when I graduated in 1984, I went to a school, UC Santa Barbara, University of California, Santa Barbara.
Mm-hmm.
It was like 90 minutes away. I took math. So me and my friends who were engineering majors, we were focused on that. I went there for 2 years, and I got kicked out. I flunked out of college because I wasn't good at math, and eventually I hated math. I got so depressed. I thought I was a loser because a lot of my friends had moved on and they graduated, and they had they were on their way to getting good jobs and good money, and here I was. I got flunked out. I have no idea what I was going to do, and I had to go and move back home for my mom and dad. So I was always comparing myself, and I was just miserable. And I took odd jobs just to help pay rent. And then I took this one drawing class at a junior college, life drawing, and I took it just to cheer myself up. Well, that was a savior because every week for 3 hours in that drawing class, I was happy.
Yeah.
I did that for 3 years that I actually got enough credits to actually go back to UC Santa Barbara, and I was an art major. So I went back, I did that, met my wife there the second time,
Yeah.
and I was happy. And I graduated when I was 25 years old. So you think everything was fine, and then I'm like, okay, what do I do? Well, there's not a lot of fine art jobs. my degree was studio arts, which is the same as a fine arts degree.
Yeah.
So it was hard to find a job. Anyway, I'll just fast track this. The Lion King came out, and so a lot of studios were popping up looking for people to go into animation. And I thought, animation. Okay, I want that. So I applied and I applied and applied. Over 2 years, I applied like like a lots of times, and
Yeah.
I got like over 24 rejection letters, but I kept applying because I didn't know any better. I just kept applying,
Yeah.
and so one day, this was before online, this is before email.
Yes.
You got to call people. So I remember I was calling all the operators at the studios, and they got to know me. And one of the ladies at Walt Disney Animation said, "Have you heard of Disney TV, the Walt Disney TV Animation Storyboard Program, the trainee program?" I
Mhm.
said no. So she sent me a test. I took it. I had no idea what I was doing. I tried to do the best I could. Uh, After about a month or so, I heard, and they said, "Great, come on in." There was 9 of us, and basically, for 1 year, they were going to teach us how to storyboard the Disney way, and it was like art school and film school. It sounded great, and this was October of 1997. So I was 31 years old, and I was happy. And the whole program was they took people who had raw skills but no experience, so they could craft them and mold them and teach them stuff. This was 97 October.
Yeah.
Uh, January 5th or 4th, when we came back after Christmas break, they said we're killing the program. That was because at the time, this was the Hunchback of Notre Dame, and it wasn't making Lion King money, and it spooked a lot of people, and they thought animation wasn't as profitable as it was.
Mm-hmm.
In any event, they decided to downsize certain programs. One of them was the training program. So they said they can only keep 2 of the 9 of us. I was number 3. So I was so close, and I was like, ah. But the director of the program went up to bat for me and said some nice things to somebody. The next thing I knew, the next week, I was at Disney TV on a show called Pepper Ann.
Yeah.
And they said, "You're going to be a storyboard revisionist." And I'm like, cool, what's
What?
that? I had no idea what a revisionist was. We didn't even get to storyboards at the time we were there. We had like a couple of exercises, but I still didn't know what was going on. So that's how I got in. I got in, I was 31. I was lucky enough to be starting this program, but that never finished. But I didn't care. I was happy, and I just basically learned on the job.
Yeah.
And I just asked 1,000 questions, bugged a lot of people. The Disney, the animation program had or not program, the studio had a library of old storyboards and old designs and model sheets. Every day during lunch or after work, I'd go in and make copies. So in my garage, I have like boxes of storyboards and stuff. I would study
Crazy.
them, and that's how I learned. And then eventually, they gave me shots. Every production I was on, they would give me a chance until I actually started boarding, and then I did the same for design and so forth. So I guess that was my long way of starting it. But I started originally as going one way, and I started the other, and it took a while to get there.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. Every time I listen to this, it's amazing because what I was also saying during the last live with Anna Margiotta is that there is this sort of idea that the people that are in somehow in certain position in animation, it's like they received power from the sky and they've been launched in that position from the very beginning, while the story is quite different because every one of us have different approach, different story, different failures, and this is so helpful for people to listen this kind of story, in my opinion, because it can teach that people needs to relax the expectation of entry. I mean, it's already stressful to learn to be like always on point with your skills, that you don't have to put even this pressure to reach the point after I don't know 1 2 years, because sometimes with students happen that oh, I'm 21. I never will. I don't work now, so I will never work in animation. and
Yeah.
and you are still 21. So
Yeah, I hear a lot of like young people, like, as young as 18 and 21 and 24, and
yeah.
they're like, all of a sudden they say like, well, that's it. And I'm like, really? Did you get rejected over 24 times? Did you try over 2 years? And
Yeah.
you guys are way more talented than I am. And it's like, you know what? You're not going to get hired the first time. You
Yeah.
may not get hired the second time, the third time, the fourth time. It may not happen in a week. It may not happen in a month. And I'm kind of like, that's how the industry is. It's very competitive.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not impossible. You just got to keep at it, and be persistent and keep growing in your field.
Yeah.
Your portfolio may not be as strong. So what you need to do is keep working on it. And it's like, you got to keep it fresh. You just because school starts doesn't mean you stop. It just
Yeah.
means you have to
Exactly.
crank it up more. And
Yeah.
school only gave you the tools to get it done. It's up to you to go beyond that.
Yeah.
And um, and that's just it. I know sometimes it's like, okay, well, what is that? Well, I can share what that might be, but you gotta keep things going. Just because you can't rely on the portfolio and just the portfolio that came out of high school
Yeah.
or college. No, you
Exactly.
gotta you gotta work like you have the job already. Is what I say.
Yes.
So just because you graduated, no, start creating assignments, but then start creating assignments that are kind of like art of books. Like, oh, just don't draw one house, draw the house and then the neighborhood that the house is in. And then don't just do the exterior and the interior. And then when you do an interior, then do a close up of that interior.
Yeah.
And then what you're doing now is you're doing an art of book for this one piece of this story.
Yeah.
That's what we do in film. So you have to convince people that you're doing that and do more of it. So I could talk about that later, but yeah,
Yeah. I'm sure when the Q&A is live will be the question about portfolios and stuff like that. So yeah.
yeah.
It,
And don't worry about the age. Age is nothing. It's what you put in your book.
yeah.
That's what people respond to. So,
Yeah, no. Also because the entry in every field, I will say, not just related to animation, but the entry, it's such depending on circumstances as well. I mean, you can also be really really good, but you are not the person the project the specific project you are applying is looking for. I
yeah,
know a lot of people, even in my experience in Brown Bag, we say no to really talented people, not because they are not good enough, but for the specific show we are doing in that specific moment, we are looking for something else, or we are looking for something really specific. So, and this can be applied to every studio in the world and every project in the world. So it's not always our fault as an artist that we are not good enough. It's just that you need to be strong enough with skills, but also find this the passage, the
yeah,
right moment, the right person that is okay.
exactly.
This is what I'm looking for. So yeah.
And don't ever take it personal. Yeah, I
No.
mean, you hit it right on the head, Carmine. It's like some productions are looking for specific skill sets
Yeah.
or certain styles and so forth, and that's okay. I mean, that's because that's what they need.
Yeah.
So, so I know people take it personal and they kind of internalize it and like they think it's a reflection on them. It's like, no,
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 you
no.
still need to grow as an artist and still do that. But it's kind of like flip the tables. If you're an art director or director and you have to assemble a small team
Yeah.
and you have a certain style in mind, you're only looking for people who you know and can trust who can deliver that. So that means you right away,
Yeah.
you have a narrow target to shoot for. That's just the reality.
Yeah.
So, but that has no reflection of what they can do or bring. It just means, again, it's like it's a competitive field, and so it just means, well, you keep working on your stuff, and then maybe show more variation in your work.
Yeah.
Always keep the style that you're strong with, but bring more to the table, so that way it shows more variation, more
Absolutely.
adaptability at certain things. Um,
Yeah, no, yeah, even show a bit more of flexibility. I mean, it's important to have a focus. Don't lose yourself in like hundreds of styles, hundreds of approach. But at least show that you are able to be a bit more versatile with your skills, that you are not doing only one thing sometimes, can
Yeah.
also happen. Or maybe you are lucky enough that you present your first portfolio and you are exactly what someone is looking for and you got hired.
Yeah. That happens. That's awesome. It's like, you kind of won the lotto. It's like, great.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. The second question is, as person, as artist, drawer, designer, I've always been fascinated by cultures, and all of the cultures. I'm really passionate with history, and in fact, before starting thinking to become a designer, I was thinking to do the archaeologist, even inspired by Indiana Jones kind of vibes.
Uh-huh.
I'm born in 1985, so it was just there when I was born.
Yeah.
And the question is basically, uh, you bring with yourself the heritage of one of the most beautiful culture, which is the Mexican one. So I would like to talk about what makes you pride of your roots and how this culture influenced your I will say in general your life, but also your design skills. Because look, for example, Italians are such filled with Renaissance, with fine arts painting, that you can see in the different students of schools that this still remains this kind of heritage. And I believe that you are also bringing something from your own culture. So talk about this.
That's a great question. I should let you know. I'm kind of I come from two cultures.
Yep.
I'm Mexican American. I'm
Yep.
Chicano, but I'm also Native American. So
Yeah.
I'm Native American, and I'm just I I'm I love my cultures
Yeah.
because I think from both they're just beautiful cultures that kind of resonate family and pride and just beautiful work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I remember when I was a kid, growing up in East LA, there was a lot of murals all over the place.
Yeah.
A lot of colorful murals, and a lot of them were just positive. And I was just surrounded by all that. And growing up, I was always it was always around me. Even my family were artists. I had an uncle, uh, um, two uncles actually, who drew.
Mm-hmm.
My mom drew. My dad drew. My dad, I should say this. I had two dads. I had
Mm-hmm.
a biological dad who I didn't really know so much when I was a kid. And then when my mom remarried, um, that dad was my stepdad, but
Yeah.
I call him my dad because he raised me.
Yeah.
And so my biological dad, from what I remember, he drew. So there was always kind of drawing in my family. And so I was just always surrounded by that. Um, and I just got really, when I was in high school, I remember, again, the murals, but also a lot of Chicano art. There was always murals, and there was always these artists who kind of they did artwork around the neighborhood and in the form of like posters and stuff like that. So I always saw it around, and
Yeah.
and I could share that later. Chicano art. Chicano is a it's a term for Mexican American people
Yeah.
who are Mexican, but they're American too.
No.
And there's a Chicano art movement that was very popular around the late 60s and early 70s that just happened around the time when things were changing in America.
Yes.
And so there was a lot of artists there that I got really inspired and influenced. And there was one who I was lucky enough to work with who was really inspiring. So, yeah, I love that. And when I went to college, I remember we had a really good arts library. And I remember I would go there almost every day, and I rediscovered like Mexican artists from Mexico.
Yeah.
Not only the top three, like Siqueiros and Diego Rivera and Orozco, they were the top muralists at the time. But there was these other artists, engravers. There were these painters that I never knew about, and that was like I was like it opened my eyes to like, oh my gosh, and they were doing things that were just they were doing artwork for different things. You know, the
Yeah.
artworks could be more like they were just like a beautiful landscape and stuff like that. Others are more revolutionary because what was happening during the time. You know, a lot of them
Yeah.
were like reflections of things happening.
Yes.
You know, some were like very had to do with like people who were getting exploited or the rights of Indians during like an oppressive government, and they they did these really beautiful artwork. Some were striking and powerful, but I mean that spoke to me. I was like, wow, and that really, aside from doing my regular art assignments, I was like looking at this, and at the same time, I was looking at like the art of Disney, and so I'm
Yeah.
like looking at that, and so I was exposed to different things, um, but yeah, going back to culture, that really, um, yeah, I remember that really kind of inspired me, and I was like trying to figure that out. I was growing as a person. I was growing
Yeah.
in my culture and identity too, and um, yeah, it was just a big learning, um, I guess, period for me. Trying
Yeah.
to find myself, but for me as an artist,
Yeah.
I was looking at it through art, and it was powerful, and it still is. In fact, I've been meaning to share some of the posters and artwork and artists that I find inspiring on my
Yeah.
Facebook. So I'll do that soon.
Yeah. Cool. Um, what I think sometimes it's like missing in people is this kind of being influenced also by your roots, because especially in this period of time, even on myself I can say this, we are always looking for a kind of a standard type of artists where which are basically dominating the animation kind of language, but we sometimes miss that there is a whole world of arts to be influenced by. And I think that it's really important sometimes to just relax a bit, explore even something that is outside your own perception and your own goals, because goals can be up here as a statement to yourself, and like you say to yourself, okay, I want to reach the level of this artist because I want to work where is now. But also as an artist we should be enjoying the discover of our skills and maybe being influenced in something really crazy.
Yeah,
Something that it's not strictly related to the animation or what we are reaching to be in few years. So
yeah,
yeah.
I agree. It's like when I get inspired, I don't look at just other designers from animation. I do, but
Yeah.
I look beyond that. Like I look at photography, I look at filmmakers,
Yeah.
I look at like painters, painters, classical painters, painters from different countries. I mean, it's just not just I just don't narrow my inspiration or what I like to one. No, I'm inspired by all kinds of artists.
Yeah.
So I mean that's wonderful because you need inspiration from everywhere, and then somehow that inspires you. Maybe not, or you just get inspired as a person on what you see. So yeah, I'm like a sponge. I mean I get inspired by so many things, and
Yeah.
when one way or another it touches me to kind of maybe to what I want to say or do. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, no, also because everything we learn is confluencing in what we express later with drawing, with skills. So you can also be influenced by, I don't know, graffiti arts, and then you discover years later that you need, because you are working on a project that it's relevant with graffiti, or I don't know, just examples that are coming now in my mind. So you never know what the future will be uh, provide to you and what the projects may require from you.
exactly. You never know. I
No.
mean, for me, I remember I was inspired by calligraphy, and just the fluidity of that kind of inspired
Yeah.
when I was trying to figure out something. Even like brutalist architecture,
Yeah.
you're gonna think like, well, you've seen it, but then later on, when you have to maybe design a building that has to be oppressive and thick and heavy, and has to have this very, you know, this statement of just like heaviness.
Yeah.
You look maybe to look at that for inspiration. So
Yeah.
yeah, it comes from anywhere.
It really is. um, Third question is a bit. It's following this one, but it's changing something. So the latest events in USA are telling basically us that still in 2020, the world is having trouble with intolerance and being united as humans. Do you think animation is doing enough in terms of supporting the culture to be more inclusive? And or maybe you think that something is still missing from animation as a sort of, let's say, uh, path to show special children's uh, on how we can be as a human being.
Yeah, I think it's starting. I think studios and certain things are happening to start bringing more opportunities for that, as far
Yeah,
as voices into the animation, more diversity, more perspectives. Not only in the role of what we say, but also in roles of direct and in leadership
yeah,
uh, in studios. I think it's starting to happen, and yeah, yeah, there should be more. It should continue. So yeah, what we're living in here is pretty. I feel like we're living through a history point. This is like
yeah,
a major chapter
yeah,
that's happening, and but I feel like a lot of things that have happened that got us here was happening a long time ago.
yeah,
But for one reason or another, things uh, never happened to make them better. And
yeah,
so all of this that we see is just kind of like it's like it's like it's like something that it's like been enclosed for so long. So this is the time for change. This is time for progression. This is the time where we seek reform in all forms, that we got to make things right. Things have been so wrong in our country. Some people have profited from the suffering of others. Let's just say that. And
yeah,
you look at history after history, it's there. Some people might not say otherwise, but you know what? That's the truth, and that's the fact. And we need to make it better. And I think our role as artists, we can do that because we're filmmakers, we're storytellers.
yeah,
So we can make a change, and we can show that with our art, with our story, with our films, with our animation. And it doesn't have to be animated; it can be anywhere. Live action, music videos, short films, commercials, everything. We all can bring a narrative that can showcase inspiration, maybe a point of education, maybe something to really, you know, bring out to people like what it is, so we can make a change. You know,
yeah,
we can do it with entertainment, or we can just be bold and make someone like, oh. But yeah, I mean, we're living through some major times here.
yeah.
And it's been crazy here. It's been
Damn.
a lot of I mean, every day I'm like shaking my head like, oh my gosh. But you
Yeah,
know what, I think aside from all this, and sometimes it might look crazy, it looks scary, a lot of unknown stuff, I'm truly confident that we're gonna get by this. And I know we're gonna get through this, and we're gonna go through it well and with confidence for change, because I feel it, I see it. People want change.
yeah,
We need change. We need it again. We need to right the wrongs. So it's there's so much wrong that I could deal with, but we need to. I know this is just the start, and yeah, it needs to continue, and I hope it will, and I know it will.
yeah. This is the wish I have also. Not only now talking in general for animation, but I wish this change for everything, because it's not possible anymore to have this kind of discrepancy between. I mean, we are all under the same sky, so there is no sense in being in point the difference between people anymore. That it's such a you see, my struggle with today is that you can see how things are fantastic in some aspect of our life,
Yeah.
technology, communication, even the amount of effort the humans are putting to defeat uh, every sort of menace from the world, starting from disease to everything. And then you see in the same day you see the news that are talking about brutality, or are talking about something that it's not, for me it's not matching. It's like a puzzle that is made with two different kind of pieces. It's not just something, it's not matching the other things and
Yeah.
it's in the same day. So it's
Yeah.
it's really crazy. It's really crazy
Yeah.
time.
It is. But I mean, I'm confident that we as we can make a change as people and as artists. We can
Yeah,
definitely make that change for progress, for bringing education and light to certain things that we shouldn't or didn't in the past.
yeah,
So so this is a major opportunity for artists to do something, and I see it happening. So I'm confident, and we still have a long way to go, but I know things are starting, and that's awesome. So I feel good.
cool. um, okay, next question is basically, your works are always sort of inspiration, and I believe that part of the reason it's also because you are able to tell a story even from sketches. You show us in the workshop we had in Dublin your process, your mental approach of telling the stories. So what I'm going to ask you is, how can students improve their narrative skills alongside the lines and colors, every technical aspect of the skills? Uh, which is your recommendation to increase the communication and especially the narrative skills?
Hmm. I kind of it can be done several ways. Um, Basically, it can be either like a character design or even a background design,
Yeah,
and mostly specifically in storyboards, you want to tell a story. So it usually means like you have a character that is acting or reacting or going through a journey
yeah,
to some kind, and it could be an emotional journey, psychological journey, a physical journey where they meet things on the way, things happen along the way. So you want to like depending on what it is, you want to like showcase that someone is going through something and reacting to something and maybe trying to go somewhere. Um, Basically, I always tell people in a nutshell, story is about someone who goes from A to B, and
yeah,
a lot of things happen along the way. They might meet a lot of people on the way, but basically, that person, there's a want or a need that a person needs. For example, it could be as epic as like um, someone, uh, there's a meteor that crashes. Everything nice and neat. You introduce in one drawing, someone is outside watering their yard,
yeah,
and then the next drawing, a big meteor hits, and everything is going crazy. In two images, you have contrast:
yes,
safe, unsafe, and then after the unsafe, then in that contrast, in that moment, there's a need or want. What's the want? I want to stay alive. I need to stay alive and to save people. People are in danger. So the whole idea is to it's a survival story. So all those other moments, you can then show a struggle of someone trying to stay alive, and stay alive not necessarily mean they're keeping themselves alive. Maybe it's helping others stay alive,
yeah,
or trying to get to safety, trying to correct what's happening. So basically, that's like an epic, something that's horrible. It could be something good. It could be like someone goes to a party, and they're right there with their friends, and then the next moment they're kind of like, who's that? And their interest, and they're like, wow, I got to know that person. All of a sudden it's a love story. So what's the want and need? I want, or I need to figure out who that person is. And then the whole story is like, well, do they meet? Do they get together? Do they make love last, and so forth? So that is a story of, it's a setup of this person, what they want, and then do they make it happen? It could be as simple as I want a cookie.
Yes.
where, here I am, I'm hungry, I want a cookie. So I go in the kitchen, there's no cookies. I want a cookie. So the whole story is, do I get my cookie? And it could be a variety of things. Like what are the things there that maybe help me on my journey to get my cookie?
Yeah.
Well, the store is down the block, but there's a big loose dog running around, and I'm scared of dogs. That's an obstacle. Or the store is there, but I don't have any money. How do I gotta find money, or what do I do to get to the store?
Yeah.
Yeah, I go to the store, but the store is closed. But I still want my cookie. Uh, it's basically, it's setups and stuff like that. That's like what I presented was just kind of like what you think about when you're doing story.
Yeah.
So knowing that, then you go back to what you have to try and do. If you're a character designer, it's like, okay, a lot of people give me the neutral Jesus pose, and that's fine. But it's like, as a character designer, you want to bring more emotion, more expression. So have your character acting or reacting to something or someone.
Yeah.
So that would be their personality. We see them in context of who they are, and in some ways that can help explain what they're wearing. Why are they wearing what they doing?
Yeah.
If they're having certain armor, it's like, well, why are they wearing that certain armor? Oh, because they're in this time period where this is happening in their universe, and they're only limited to the materials in their world. So right away, there's meaning behind that design, and
Yes.
so that you're kind of it makes your design stronger because it has context. It has you've done the homework and some logic behind your choices. You're not just making it up to make it look cool. Yeah, you always want to make your art look cool, but it needs to make sense.
Yeah. Exactly.
Otherwise, you're just kind of it doesn't serve any purpose to the world because as designers for film, we're focusing on story. So there's a story being told there. All we're doing is we're facilitating art to meet those needs of the story, and that's what we're doing. If it's a background designer, okay, that background design. Usually, a lot of people put empty sets, but it's like what helps is if you put one character in there, and they could just be walking, but then now it has a little more meaning because there's a person there walking in your set, and they can either act or react to your set. If it's a scary set, usually someone is like they're reacting to something, so that helps convey what that is. Not only that, but your background design becomes a visual development piece. It
Yeah.
showcases more of what you can do. You don't necessarily have to create a character design if you're not comfortable with that, but maybe you borrow a character design from the character designer you're working with, and then you shift it to a pose that works and so
Yeah.
forth. So it's these things you want to think about. You want to think about story, and story is about emotion, and it's about bringing an experience. So you have to some way bring that emotion and experience in your story. So when you do a character design, it's not just this. Yeah, it's stiff and but it's like I don't know anything about what that person is feeling, or what their personality is, and so forth. You got to think about these things and bring more to it in your pieces. And it may not just be in just one piece. Do it in several pieces.
Yeah.
Uh, so that way we have more to see, more to see the person feel and react. We have a better idea. If you look at an art book,
Hmm.
there's lots of art in there, and you get the nice exploratory drawings and sketches, especially for characters. But then you also get pieces where they're acting. You get a shot where you have two people acting and reacting. So now we know the dynamic. We know, you know, their personality more.
Yeah.
That's where you want to. That's what you want to achieve to. You want to somehow. This is theater. What we do is theater. What we do is film. I mean,
Yeah.
it's emotion, experience. You want to bring that, and yeah, how do you bring it? Consider that these are characters and we need to feel. We need to see them feel.
Yeah.
We need to see them act, and that's the target that you're trying to do as a designer.
Yeah, I think that's one of the best explanation in terms of uh, you are not just thinking on the cool factor, you're not just thinking on anatomy or the academic stuff. You are trying to show to people you are aspiring to work with that you are able to transform basically the emotions, as you said, but also the flow of the story. That you get the flow, the sense of a story which is going from a point to another, and in the middle there is struggle, drama, joy, whatever, and
Mhm.
you are able to transform these kind of keywords or emotions in drawing and
Ex-
in rational thoughts that brings the characters and the environments to become what they need to be. Yeah.
Exactly. Because it's like, I mean, that's the job. We have to do that. You know, we're we're serving story.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
and in that story, there's an emotion happening. There's a journey and experience. So, yeah, we have to tap in. Just to kind of expand on that, like say for example, you're a background designer and you do a room.
Yeah.
Well, we're probably going to see that room more than once. We're probably going to see it at the beginning of the story when things are happy.
Hmm.
Now, what if we revisit that same room later on, and then the hero of our story is in that same room, but he's at a low point? So, how do we make the same room emotionally low?
Yeah.
Well, it might be with lighting, it might be more empty, it might be the composition of the room. Not only is the person performing in there, and you get the idea, like, okay, that person's sad, but
Yeah.
how does the room underscore what that person's feeling? So now you have to, now you're thinking with lighting and these tools that we use, and it comes from theater, lighting and composition and so forth. That helps underscore emotionally what's happening there. Sometimes they do it with color, sometimes they do it with other things. But yeah, these are things we have to tune in as far as designers to help bring that experience and emotion.
Yeah. Storytelling. Basically. Okay, now that we reached the fifth question, I will ask you if you would like to do some scribbles in the drawing pad. So I will throw my stuff away and put your screen on the drawing pad.
Sure. Let's see. So let me go share
Yeah,
screen. And then here we go.
cool. Now just
So just draw whatever, Carmine, or is there something in
yeah,
mind?
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
You still
So
need to respond my queries. So
cool. So yeah, when I draw, I basically start with shapes, and then I just kind of go with an eye line, and then
cool.
if I'm drawing a dog, I'll draw the muzzle. Maybe then I'll start expanding the eyeballs, and maybe I'll draw the ears. I just start from anywhere, but then I just kind of build out
Yep.
and so forth.
Cool. Fantastic. In the meantime, I'm continue with the questions.
Okay, sure.
Um, this is something that I was thinking recently. Because with the rise of Netflix and Netflix animation studios in particular, something is definitely changing in the possibilities and choices for artists. So, what do you see in the future of animation in terms of competition and type of products and target? You see in the future something that it's less than a monopoly or a dualism between, for example, Pixar, DreamWorks. You see Netflix a potential competitors in terms also of future films or like a source of what I will say is like you can see also Netflix as a potential studio that now people want to reach in terms of um, working position basically. So
Yeah, I mean, Netflix is a player.
yeah,
Netflix is a major player in animation now. I remember before, like about what, 2 or 3 years ago, when Netflix started to go into, and they were talking about making a studio and stuff like that.
yeah,
I think a lot of people laughed at that because they're like, "Oh, what is a video rental company? What do they know about production and so forth?"
yeah,
Well, they maybe not necessarily know more about production, but what they did have was money, right?
a lot.
And that was able to bring in talent and people from the studios.
Yeah,
Just to give you an idea, let's see, because I was doing this a while ago. The Disney company,
yeah,
as far as revenue, how much they make per year, they make let's see, I believe 12 billion a year. Half of that is from parks and resorts, and the other is from entertainment.
yeah,
You know, like their studios, film, their library, and all that stuff. Now, they own Pixar, Marvel, Disney, of course, Lucas, The Simpsons, and they just acquired Fox.
Yeah.
They own all that. So 12 billion and 6 billion from there, 6 billion from there. Okay.
Yeah.
Netflix, 141 billion. Okay. Now that they don't have a park or resort, this
Yeah.
is all production. This is all movies and streaming and so forth. So 12 billion from Disney compared to Netflix. This guy is a monster.
Yeah.
All right. And they, you know, they can do a lot here. They're stepping around and
Yeah.
they're like, ah. No, but basically, Netflix is huge, and
Yeah.
I mean they have a lot of money now, and they changed the game as far as what they did for streaming. Uh, I think before movies and even TV, movies had to rely on box office, so you had to make the movie first, and then you hope people came in.
Yeah.
For TV, they made it first, and then they relied on ratings. Okay. So this was the old model or the
Yeah.
existing model. For Netflix, well, people just subscribe to Netflix. So right away they get their money right away, right? So people pay in advance and then they just watch whatever they have in their queue.
Yes.
So right away, I mean they just they have a lot of money first. So they changed this kind of dynamic, this kind of model in a way. So so yeah, now Netflix they have so many shows that they need bodies, and what's great too was Netflix affected the industry where a lot of other studios now you have Disney Plus, right?
Yes.
You now have what Amazon Prime. You also have HBO. I think
Yeah.
was it
It's
HBO
yes.
Plus or I forgot was it HD or something. They just started. Not to mention the others. All of this came from that because they realized they needed to compete with them, and it brings opportunities.
Yeah.
And opportunities means for us, money and opportunities to do our thing.
Yeah.
So um, so yeah, I mean, I'm trying to remember exactly the specific question. Like, what do you think? What do I think about Netflix?
In the future, how do you see basically from a designer point of view, from an artist point of view, do you see that this kind of break of the monopoly is benefit us because competition brings always benefits, or do you see that probably Netflix will slowly become what Disney is, and so after 5 years everything will go in the same direction that was is now basically and was like few years back. So
Yeah,
what do you see?
I think streaming is going to be here to stay. And in fact, it's getting bigger and bigger and it provides more options. Streaming now is what cable TV was 40
Yeah,
years ago,
exactly.
you know? And cable hasn't stopped. Cable has just increased and it gave more options to viewers. So what this does now, what Netflix does, it's creating options.
Mm-hmm.
It's creating options as far as what you see. And animation has even grown. Animation, there's now more options as far as like adult animation.
Yeah.
There's more options as far as specific animations like anime. Uh,
Yes.
there's also other productions. I mean, there's other productions that have been that have grown because of their collaborations with Netflix. Brown
Yeah.
Bag, Cartoon Saloon, and numerous other shows from around the world that are now help feeding into Netflix. Netflix is now just a broadcaster, right? They're
Yes.
just a big channel that you can go in. But then there's a lot of studios here that are now these studios are doing well because it brings more opportunities to showcase what they can do to
Yeah.
Netflix. So Netflix
Yes.
is not only do they make, but they can also broadcast.
Mm-hmm.
And what Netflix did, same thing with Disney and all
Yeah.
these other studios. So again, what it did was I think it brought options. And what it also did was as an artist, now with
Yeah.
COVID now made it more. It again brought it what it did was it proved that people can work from anywhere
Yeah.
with my lousy, sloppy writing here. Uh, and what that does, it brings opportunities, not just for people outside of LA,
Mm-hmm.
but all over the world.
Yeah.
And so it changed the game as far as who we work with and how we work with them.
Yeah.
So COVID, as horrible as it was, in a weird way, it tested something,
Yeah.
and it brought opportunities for us. I mean, COVID has not hurt the animation industry at all. In fact, it's flourishing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, and then with streaming, streaming, it's again streaming. It brought again more options. So I think as an artist, it's there. That doesn't mean it's a guarantee you're going to get a job. No, you still have to work your ass off. You still have to prove yourself with your book, but the opportunities are there.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, no, what I believe is also that Netflix is now also filling a sort of gap there was there in the past years. That, as you said, is able to bring, for example, different type of contents. Like we saw with Love, Deaths and Robots, that animation is not only for strictly for kids, but can be adult, can be gore, can be grooming, can be a lot of different type of animation, serve a different scope, and this, in my opinion, can attract different type of artists that until now they were a bit more confined to a sort of a general language like the Disney one, the Pixar. So everything is a bit more polished. It's a bit more not like a fairy tale, but it's the type of language you are thinking for kids in particular. And now Netflix is showing and that they can do different type of content, and I don't think that Disney can move faster to like fill this gap, or that even they can do it, because they are like almost 70 years of doing same things in the same ways. So
yeah,
changing from now, it's quite difficult even for Disney itself, which is a colossal. So
really, yeah, totally.
I think that Netflix is changing the game, but also giving the opportunity to attract artists that until now were a bit more confined with a certain language, which is not wrong, which is not like bad, but was just the reality of the fact.
True. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, it just again it changed the game, and with that, opportunities for everybody, and also programming. What we watch,
Yeah,
and yeah, it's I think it's great. I think it's awesome and a blessing, and I think it's going to be here to stay. Until the next thing happens. But right now, I think the next thing is happening now.
yeah, and probably this can also, from an European point of view, with the rise of the next Netflix animation studios in Europe, I believe that this will fill a bit more the gap between the USA and the Europe in terms of animation, because
Definitely.
we always see that USA is where everything is born and where everything is solid, but now Netflix is bringing opportunities also in the continent where basically until now the things were a pretty much more authorial, I will say, with movie like with the Annecy festivals, or the kind of product that were not exactly always the same language of Disney or the other USA product.
I totally agree. Yeah, I mean, there's productions now that like again like there's outside productions that they collaborate with Netflix, and what that does is, they have work that is now being broadcast to a wider audience,
Yeah.
and that is awesome, and it just brings more opportunities back to that same studio
Mm-hmm.
and to their talent, and I think that's awesome. So I think this is the beginning, and I think it's going to stay for a while, which is wonderful.
Yeah, it's sort of what we everyone is wishing.
Yeah.
um, which is the funniest experience you had working on productions projects? Which is one of your story behind the scene that you always remember with pleasure?
There was. I've been lucky enough to work on several. I mean, I find pleasure in all the productions I'm working in,
Yeah.
where it's the people I work with, or actually maybe a certain scene, or the design, or whatever.
Yes.
But I mean, there are like maybe a couple that stand out. One is Coco.
Yeah.
That was just a wonderful experience, working with a great crew,
Hmm.
and just the experience as far as like trying to figure out the designs and the research we went through and so forth.
Yeah.
Uh, but also personally, that for me, that was really that was special because it was a beautiful film that brought light to this, that beautiful culture and a
Yeah.
beautiful holiday, because it was about family. And it was great to see um, someone like me on screen, and I was part of it. That was that for me. I was so proud to be part of it.
Yeah.
That was special to me personally. But then, yeah, I've been lucky enough. Kim Possible was a great experience because it was there that I started taking chances, and I started learning more about boarding and design. That was
Hmm.
awesome. Um, let's see what else was that was major. Uh, I mean, they were all good, but though I guess those two stand out.
Cool.
Yeah.
There is any story in particular that you want to share, like for example, some gags you had with your colleagues, or I don't know, some story to tell?
Let's see. I'm trying to think. It's funny. Nothing really comes out right now. I just remember. I mean, I think all artists have this where when you work on something
Yeah.
and then you see it on the screen or whatever, I can't enjoy the movie because what I see is more the experience of what I was
Yeah.
dealing with when I was making it. Like when I saw Cars 2,
Hmm.
um, I really couldn't enjoy the movie for the movie because I was like, oh, I remember when we were kind of that. The same thing happened with Monsters Incorporated. I had
Yeah.
to watch it several times until I actually just enjoyed the movie for the movie.
Hmm.
But yeah, I just remember, it's funny because you get so close to the movie that sometimes you're dissecting the movie to what you have to deliver without enjoying the story as a whole.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
but as far as personal stories, yeah, nothing really. I mean, I'm trying to think. Nothing offhand at the moment. I'm
Okay.
sure.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I can definitely.
No
Uh,
worries at all. And to continue the question, basically, you have many years of experience, as you are saying right now, and you. Oh, sorry, I was reading the wrong question. There is a theme or a kind of a project that you didn't had the chance to work on and you would love to. I mean, there is something that you didn't explore yet in terms of theme or genre or something like that.
uh-huh. Not. I mean, yeah, it's hard to answer because I've been lucky enough to work with different movies that have like different things happening. Like maybe there's a different theme going on.
Yeah.
Uh, Not yet. I mean, I can't really answer as to like if there's something that I'm itching to do just yet.
Yeah.
Uh, Not really. I mean, the one thing that I'm kind of itching to do is something that I'm focusing more on my own story. Like I
Yeah.
mentioned, like I was working on a book. I'm working on a book about a cat.
Yeah.
So I'm actually focusing on a story about this guy
Mm-hmm.
where, he goes out and has adventures, and, he draws and stuff like that. Maybe he has like always paper and pencil. Maybe he's got like a pencil that he has in his ear, like we all do. And, you know, uh, the stories that I've always wanted to tell, like adventure stories and maybe story. It's almost like he has like a lot of things happening. Like there's a love story in there. There's an adventure story. So I guess the stories that I always want to do, I'm putting him in his stuff, in the stories
Okay.
that are about him.
So
So
basically, you are willing to create a sort of universe a narrative universe where this character is basically living adventure and going through different kind of situations with and it's always like the center of this stories. Yeah, okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's really
yeah. So it's kind of like basically I'm gonna create like an art of book for him
good.
for a movie that hasn't existed, at least not yet. So
Yeah.
for me, that's my way of kind of like, oh, I'm being like an art director for this piece with my
Yeah.
cat.
So you are just telling that you are doing your own portfolio.
Right, yeah, I'm kind of that's what I'm doing.
So guys, see, you never finish to do portfolios. It's like a never-ending story for an artist.
It's true. It never ends. I mean, it just keeps going and going, and that's wonderful. It shouldn't. It should never end. And
Yeah,
all the stuff we do, we're doing all this artwork for studios, but
yeah,
at the end, we don't own it. The
yeah,
studios. So I'm like, with all that beautiful energy and talent that you have, do
yeah,
it for your own work. So that way, you can do whatever you want with it, and in turn, it
yeah,
brings opportunities for you, either in terms of doing your own book, your own story, your own
yeah.
voice, or who knows, maybe you can collaborate with the studio where now you have the shots because it's your story and you can do whatever you want with it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's basically what I'm trying to do myself under the tracks. So in the meantime that I'm doing experience in brown bag and TV series for animation, I'm doing my own portfolio and my own story about ghosts because I love ghost story. So I'm trying to do the same. And I have to say it's like almost 2 years that I'm doing this kind of portfolio. We can call it portfolio, which is basically uh, one of my wish for my career, for my future. That one day I can realize the project as well. So yeah, it's really common. It's something that everyone should have as a side job for your
That's
own.
yeah, exactly. That's great. When so you say this is a book that you're working on?
Sorry?
This is a book that you're working on?
I don't. I cannot define. It's like it started like an idea for a graphic novel,
Uh-huh.
but then the more I was investigating shapes, investigating characters, I was feeling okay. There should be something. I would not say more than a graphic novel because it's not like that, but it's like I want to do things like this was an actual movie.
Uh-huh.
So what I'm doing at the moment is even sometime involving my own colleagues and asking for previews of the set. So I'm doing the sketches and then I'm receiving back the block in 3D to build my own kind of sets, and I'm treating like I am doing this movie from scratch. So and it's a really long job because um, I'm not always in the mood of working after 8 hours of work in the studio. So it's taking me a lot of time for this reason because sometimes I feel really, really um, inspired, and I, for example, there was like 3 months straight where I worked every day at this project because I was so feeling the mood that I
Uh-huh.
never stopped even after 8 hours of studio work. But
Uh-huh.
now I am in the period where after work I'm more on the PlayStation, on the movies, and I'm not carrying the project because I feel that if I force myself to work even without the pleasure,
Yeah.
I'm gonna reach basically nothing than frustration. So I'm always tell to myself, if you are feeling the mood, go on, even if you are doing late. But if you are not feeling anything, it it doesn't any sense to force yourself in something.
True, true, true. You gotta have some love there
Yeah,
to do it.
exactly, exactly. Because every time you put your pen on the Cintiq or whatever on the paper, and you have this kind of emotion, I guarantee 100% that the results will be always something that you are not throwing away even after time.
True.
So it's like, yeah, love yourself and choose to fight the battle when you have the weapons, basically.
Sure. So you get ready for war and whatever else comes.
Yeah, exactly. um, every time I listen to podcast or an interview with a great artist, there is the question about which are your advice to people who are about to start this path. Well, today what I want to ask you is the opposite. Which you are which are your advices on the mistakes that someone who is starting now should avoid?
Let's see. I think, well, you should kind of, let's see. So the advice is, what would I give someone starting as far as avoiding certain mistakes
Yeah.
when they start the industry?
Yeah, yeah. Even in the approach sometimes the mistakes you are know 100% that will be serious um, menacing your path if you do it. So
Uh,
something that someone should not do.
yeah. Let's see. I would say for things that you shouldn't do,
Yeah.
don't take things too hard or too serious. Um, I always tell people take the challenge. Don't be scared of making mistakes when you draw. I know a lot of people get like hesitant or they freeze up.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking like, no, I think the first thing you want to do is just throw it down on paper. Um, don't worry about making things pretty. What
Yeah.
you want to do is you want to focus on making things smart,
Yeah.
or there should be some ideas there. Um, you have to think about what you're trying to say, and then you can always make things kind of pretty and build it up. um, for me, I mean, you saw what I did. I mean, this is just crappy sloppy drawing, but again, I'm idea and a statement and so forth on what that could be.
Yeah.
uh, you know um, let's see, as I would say, rather than mistakes, I'll change it up and say like there's things you should focus on. You
Yeah.
should always focus on
Totally
research.
free.
Maybe focus on research and ask yourself, well, what are you trying to say? Do research as far as like, what's the? I'm sorry, I was going to spell at home. As far as a set, what's in the set? Where does it take place?
Yeah.
When does it take place? What's the emotion of the room? Is it tense? Is it dramatic? Is it scary? Is it happy? Because all of these things will kind of showcase how you're going to use composition,
Yeah.
lighting, staging, how you stage your characters, and so forth. I was gonna see if I have it here. Do I have it? Let's see. I have this open just in case I was going to point out an example. See if I can quickly go to where I wanted. I
Yeah.
think. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, this is something I show. It's like here's an exercise as far as like a composition, and then how to think about storytelling and maybe points of view.
Yeah.
So I always tell people it's like, okay, there's a table and then there's a small box on the table. Okay, so that really doesn't say much. It just says like, well, it's a box on a table, and here it's shown really flat. So I tell people, how many compositions can we do that, so that way pretend the little box is a character, and you
Mhm.
want to compose them in different ways, so we kind of have an idea of the thinking of that box, or maybe not necessarily what the box is thinking, or maybe it's about the mood of what's happening
Yeah.
around the box. So I would say like maybe do a close up. All right, doesn't say much. Maybe we're on top of the box and we show more sky. So right away it's like, okay, the box is super small and there's open sky. So this open sky can be like freedom,
Mhm.
showcase like breath of fresh air, hope, opportunities. Anything can happen,
Yeah.
but it can also make them more vulnerable. So maybe there's like, maybe insignificant. It all depends on what it is. I mean, these are the possibilities of what it could be.
Yes.
Okay, now we reversed it. So now there's more ground than sky. So now this could probably reflect that the box is dominant. but it can also be like there's less room for the box to breathe in, like he's suffocating, perhaps. Who
Yeah.
knows? This is a close up of the box, but we've symmetrically placed the box in the scene. So
Hmm.
now maybe the box is more commanding, but it's also still and dead. We don't know.
Yeah.
Uh, okay, now we've tilted the box. So now what happens is he's now balanced with the negative space on the right. So there really isn't one commanding thing here. It's just like now he's sharing room with the emptiness.
Yes.
Okay, now it's almost like he's taken off. So now it's almost like he's walking in or walking out of space,
Hmm.
or maybe shy. We don't know. Okay, now this could be a close up on the box. So if we have features on the box like an eye or a nose, then it's better to see how he would be reacting. But here we're really close, so we're just like he's commanding space. Maybe he's yelling at us. Maybe he walked into the camera, right? I
Yeah.
don't know. And then we can turn the box, so we can play with lighting. We can do this. We can do that, that, that. So all these lighting choices tell us maybe a little bit more of what's happening, maybe the feelings of such. Here's a hero shot. So now we put the box more of a really severe 3-point perspective, and the camera's
Yeah.
really low. So now the box looks like a giant.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Now the box looks like a building, so to speak. So really high up. Maybe we have a down shot. So okay, that's fine. Maybe play with the shadows. Maybe we really shrink up the scale. Maybe we move them so that way there's a lot of negative space above him. Maybe symmetrically placed. Maybe it's in
Yes.
the corner. Maybe the box is at the corner of the table. Maybe it's about to fall. So now the box is vulnerable. It's
Hmm.
teetering. Same thing here. Here. He's about to jump. This says something versus this.
Yeah.
Upshot. Now we're in action. Shadows above. It's like a showdown for a Western.
Yeah.
Maybe using lighting. Maybe the box is coming into darkness or coming out of darkness.
Yeah.
Maybe it's hiding. Maybe it's open. So there's no tension there. And then once you kind of get this idea of the box, now you can play with people. So that way there's more opportunities for expression and poses.
Hmm.
You know, Again, here's a competition of like how many views can we get of just two people looking at each other
Yeah.
and so forth. You're providing points of view. So free yourself as to what the camera can do. The camera is just a tool there to see what we see, but can also be a tool for how we're feeling. Whose eyes are we seeing this from? Think about the space. Is
Yeah.
somebody encroaching on someone's space? Are we looking down at something to really show more scale, more size relationships? Point of view as though we're looking at from inside somebody.
Yes.
Uh, you can overlap one over the other, so that way it's more over the shoulder. Again, we can do close-ups to really showcase what someone is thinking or feeling, or showing more detail as far as information.
Hmm.
Originally we had a two-shot of this small little boy against this big, huge vehicle, but now we're cutting to a very severe hero shot. So now we're making the boy not so much vulnerable, but more heroic.
Yeah.
And we play that with performance. And then we have a two-shot here. Again, he's vulnerable. It's a down shot, and we see the shadow growing, but his performance tells us otherwise, like bring it on, kind of thing.
Yeah. Exactly. It's challenging.
Yeah, very upshot. So again, it's funny. To answer your question, I was kind of looking like think of the possibilities, and don't be fearful, be fearless as to what could happen, what could be.
Hmm.
So as far as mistakes, I guess the one mistake is don't limit yourself. I
Yeah.
would say think of what could be and what could happen, but then it's like okay, allow those tools of observation to happen. And it's all about well, what are you bringing on? What are you trying to say? What are your statements?
Yeah.
Here I am. I'm cueing you as far as like emotion and what you can bring. Because then when you think about things in those terms, as far as emotion and experience, then all of a sudden you can use the camera. to do that, and then you can bring performance and lighting
Yeah.
and all that stuff I talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, it's a sort of also um, a step-by-step approach, especially for people who are still learning. What I can reassume from your showing here is that basically people should also start thinking not directly at the final result, at the final picture with all the lights, with everything all
Yep.
together, but grown up a bit more step by step the your intention and your narrative. So for
Exactly.
example, starting from literally imagining a box to understand the composition, the different possibilities to this box in the space, and which every single position is transmitting to the people who are looking it. And then after you have basically the understanding of the different possibilities and the changing applied to these possibilities, you can start create the complexity of the image.
Exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, that was just perfect, right on as to what to say. Yeah. I mean, it's all about the thinking behind the design.
Yeah.
Everybody. I mean, we can all achieve and go for a finished piece and make it pretty, but underneath that pretty, there should be meaning. Even
Yeah.
something that's crude and raw, and maybe not refined, but if the statement is strong, then the image is strong.
Yeah. Especially because in the industry it's like this, you don't have the time. I mean, I don't know, probably with big production you have a lot of pre-production time where the definition is more allowed, but for example in TV series we literally don't have the time to do a lot of concepts. We just need to sell the idea of what we need to do in this shot with simple and with really crude image. So sometimes it's crucial that you are on point with less.
Yes, yes, definitely. It's simple. Keep things simple to what you want to say. I know a lot of people throw a lot of stuff onto the composition,
Yeah,
a lot of crap, and I think they're trying to hide things. Maybe they're trying. Maybe they feel there's nothing there, so when they have to throw stuff in, they're trying to compensate for a lack of something,
yeah,
and it's obvious. It looks like you're throwing a lot of crap there.
yeah,
So I always feel the most beautiful things are simple.
yeah,
Just simply told. Um, yeah, so it depends on how you compose it and how you stage it, and then using again lighting and other things to kind of help say what it is.
yeah. Perfect. Um, the next question is a bit more relaxing. It's what's your favorite animation movie and why? And this can also go to project you didn't work for. So your personal favorite movies.
Yeah, that's a tough one, but I would have to say there's probably two
Yeah.
that that I really like. One is Ratatouille,
Yeah.
and
Great.
I like Ratatouille for two reasons. I love the design, but I also love the story. I also love that moment, like it's when it's toward the end when Ego
Mm-hmm.
goes to the restaurant and then he sees the rat and then he says his speech
Yeah.
where it can come from somewhere. I always get choked up when I see that because it's so beautiful and it's so true. And if you heard those words as an artist, like
Mm-hmm.
us artists and designers, that gives me hope. And it just kind of like, yes, we can come from anywhere, you know, and anyone.
Yeah. And the second one,
Oh, Lion King. I mean, not Lion King. Yeah, Lion King's good, but I meant to say Iron Giant.
Iron Giant. Great
Yeah,
one.
because I remember it's just a beautiful, sweet movie, and everything was so good about it,
Yeah.
and it still makes me cry at the end. You know, like I am Superman. And just there's a lot of love in there in that movie. So
Yeah.
that I think that is what is something that I love too.
Yeah, no, I love Iron Giant. From the design point of view, it's really something else compared to the general language. It's really sharp. Sometimes it's flat, but it's also blinking at the 50 kind of art. It's something really really interesting, even to enjoy as a visual point of view. The story it's like one of my favorites as well. But even the visual, it's really something that it's so fitting well the narrative that it's incredible.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's just it's so beautiful. It's still, I mean, it's still great right now. It still
Yeah,
holds up. It's awesome. Yeah.
I don't think it will never age.
Think so. I mean, it's you know, you put it on now, and yeah, I'm you know, if it comes on, I'm like, okay, I know what I'm going to see for the next 70 minutes. You know, I just kind
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of the movie that even if you've seen it like hundred of times, you always be there. For example, one of the my pleasure in movies is to watch Die Hard 3. I don't know. I can stop watching and start again. I can finish it and start again. I don't know
of,
why.
which one? Die Hard 3?
Yes, the one
Really?
with Samuel L. Jackson. Yeah, I know. It has this kind of a power on me that it's just stupid how I love that movie.
No, I think that's great. It's funny. I mean, I have live action movies too, where I kind of they're my go-to movies, and
Yeah.
yeah, I no, that's awesome. That's great.
One is Die Hard, the other one is any of the Back to the Future. It's like
Yeah.
one of my favorite saga, and the Indiana Jones as well. There are some movies that I can watch over and over again, and I always try interest to watching it.
Yeah.
Even if I know every single quote from the movie.
I totally agree. I'm just writing down what the movies that I always like when they're on TV, that I always like to look at. Uh,
Yeah, Tombstone. Yeah, I love Tombstone. It's one of my favorite Western movie. And before to watch Tombstone, I'll tell you a little story. Basically, when I was kid, I didn't like at all the Western movie. I don't know why. Just they were out of my taste. And there was my grandfather, uh, who's literally was a huge fan of the genre, and I never had the chance to watch with him because I was finding them boring.
uh,
Then when I was like 20 or something like that, I watched Tombstone, and I fell in love with all the genre, and I basically watched all the movies, all the great movies that I was missing. And
uh-huh.
the sad thing is that I never had the chance then to watch one with my grandfather because he died before I discovered the love for the genre.
Uh,
So every time I see a great Western movie, it kinds me remind of him, even if I never had any opportunity to watch with him in person.
wow.
But it's still like remind me as well
Wow.
the person.
It's personal. It's that sentimental of
Yeah,
sharing it with loved ones and stuff.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh,
Okay, you basically answered half of my question because the next one was to share with us three book and three movies that you love. So I think we only have to choose three books because you already had a great list of movies.
I would say that, you know, the three books that I guess inspired me, or
Yeah.
that I kind of yeah, that inspired me, was The Art of Lion King.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first one, and let me see. I will show you why. Let's see if I have it here. Let's see. I'll go to this inspiration. Here we go. Ah, there it is. Is it here? Keynote composition. Well, anyway, it was the Art of Lion King is when I saw it, it opened my eyes as to what animation was. I was really naive.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I was let's see, I wish I could bring it up. It's an illumination. Try run. Is it under Story Moments? Nemo? Is it Nemo? Story Beats. Maybe it's somebody else. Uh, I got so much stuff here. Basically, I made the. I always thought when I was a kid and also in going to college, I always thought animation was the fine line art drawing,
Yeah.
and I was naive. I didn't pay attention like there was so much more to it. So when I saw the Art of Lion King, it was one of the first art of books that came out. I was so. Oh, I know it. I know where it's from. It's right here. I put in Gaskell. I'll find it.
Yeah.
Maybe try run. Let's see. Oh, yeah, that didn't take me anywhere. I thought it would.
No problem.
Let's see. What it did was I saw all the beautiful rough drawings. I saw thumbnails, layout drawings,
Yeah.
character inspiration. Anyway, what it did was it's like, oh, look at all this rough stuff, but it was beautiful rough stuff. There was meaning and design behind it, and composition,
Yeah.
and that really inspired me. And then that's what I that's what what's stuff like this. This is Paul Felix for Aladdin, but yeah, this is what Andy Gaskell did for The Lion King. It was beautiful compositions. It was
Yeah.
storytelling, and um, it was these initial thoughts that really made an impression on me.
Mm-hmm.
So that, I mean, The Art of Lion King was that. I guess another book. Ah, gosh, I sad to say, I don't read as many books as I could or did. I'm trying to remember what books were really uh, that. This is going to be sad. I mean, I read a lot of scripts, but
No problem.
I take that back. There was one book that I started reading that I think was really good. I'll see if I can bring it up.
Yep.
It's Robert McGee's storybook.
Ah, okay.
This book was really inspiring as far as story. Yeah. So he's really good. He talks about structure. He talks about parts of a story, and he's
Yeah.
talking about more like scripts and stuff like that. But these, you can apply these to design, beat boards, and so forth. It's basically, he talks more about the structure,
Yeah.
and then he does case studies. He brings other movies in, and he tells about the scene and all about it. And it was like, wow, I get it. So this was when I was learning more about story and stuff like that. I would read a lot about this book.
Cool.
And that was really cool.
Great.
Oh, yeah. And then another book that inspired me was Art of Jurassic Park.
Yeah, I have that one. Great.
This book opened my eyes as far as, let's see, I'm trying to find the cover. Is it this one? No, it's giving me. No. Maybe it's back. Book. Where's Art of Jurassic Park? Book. Anyway, this book really, there it is, inspired me because it introduced me to storyboarding. It was actually storyboarding for live action, but then I was like looking at it. This was back in 92, 90, and I was like, wow, I loved it. And I was learning more about composition and staging and how, the movement of the camera. I didn't know exactly what everything was happening, but it really got me excited.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, I started reading this like before starting developing the animation skills, and I found it really really useful because I mean it's an iconic film movie, and the storyboards on the art books are so rough, but at the same time, they are really clean in the intentions. That they really teach how to do proper storyboarding.
Exactly, exactly. No, I thought this would be a video. This is more of like the art and the technical side of it. What I remember was more the
Yeah,
story.
that page, yes.
Yeah. So yeah, this was really, yeah, this I remember fondly. I remember at the time I was working for a law firm, and I hated that job.
Yeah,
And I was like an office assistant. I would like, make the coffee, do Xerox copies,
yeah,
put files away, and I hated it. But I remember I had this book, and every lunch hour or anytime I could, I would be trying to do storyboards based on this. So yeah,
yeah.
this this was a spark in another part of the time I didn't like. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Um, okay, I finished the question, so now it's time for the Q&A from the chat.
yeah.
So, people, let's roll the questions and I will read to John.
Yeah, ask me anything. Hopefully, I can answer and yeah. And
Okay, the first one is, does John have a master or an artist who inspired him, also indirectly? So, do you have some kind of master or mentor in your life?
I have a lot actually, but if I had to narrow down,
Mm-hmm.
uh, it would probably have to be the Felix brothers, both Paul Felix
Yeah.
and his brother Phil Felix. Phil Felix was my mentor, and that's Paul's older brother. And I met Phil Felix when I was in Burbank. This was probably in 98 or 99, 1998, 99. It was right after I got started in the industry, and there
Yeah.
was a school near my house called the Animation Academy, and it was taught by Charles Zimbalist, and really great guy. And he had a great small school that he had classes on background design, visual development, and so forth. So anyway, I took these classes, and that's where I got to meet Phil. And Phil was an instructor there, but he took me on as my mentor, and he was wonderful. He was teaching me more about what to do and what to think about. And anyway, I got to know about Paul's work, and then I approached Paul by myself. And Paul was really cool. Paul took the time. He would look over my work, give me notes, and and I learned a lot just from looking at Paul and hearing Paul and just the little advices he would give. I learned a lot about lighting. I learned a lot about using the pencil as far as light and darks.
Yeah.
Using data space, using passages. Um, he had a quote that was really cool. Paint like you're drawing. And if you see his paintings, they're very much like drawings. They're very loose, sketchy, and very painterly,
Yeah.
but um, they're great. They're beautiful. They kind of together they all they sing this beautiful these beautiful paintings. So
Mm-hmm.
anyway, the Felix brothers were probably directly and indirectly a big part of my life as far as what learning the industry and what I know today.
Uh, Another question is, okay, you first mentioned Mexican artists, but the person here only called Rivera. What were the others' names?
Oh, okay. The other ones were Diego Rivera was one. David Alfaro Siqueiros. Siqueiros is actually, let me spell the name for you. I will share screen. I'll spell it out. Share
Yeah.
screen. So actually, the other person was this person. Let's see, David Alfaro Siqueiros. So yeah, David Alfaro Siqueiros, and he did murals like this, like this. But the one piece that really, I mean, there's a lot of pieces, but there was one, let's see, Nevarez that stood out. it's a self portrait, but also one that he has. There was a woman in chains
Mm-hmm.
that's written out, and that was really powerful. Gosh, I forgot the name of it. I'm trying to remember, but I was hoping. Okay, here it is. I'll just do this. Oh, I'll have to look for it. But yeah, this is cool. His sketches are great too. That's one artist. The other artist is Clemente Orozco, and he did a lot of murals too.
Yeah.
He did this. He did this here, this here, and he was always talking about oppression and injustice and so forth. A lot of his murals are in a lot of universities in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, what's really beautiful too are his sketches because um, they're really strong and powerful. Um, Great sense of perspective. Let's see, where's the other ones? He had one called Prometheus that was really strong. Yeah.
Beautiful.
So anyway, yeah, these guys were just early as far as what I did, but they're just one of many. But yeah, these are the big guys that that people always know about:
Yeah.
De Alfaro Siqueiros, Orozco, and Rivera.
Okay. Cool. Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
And another question is, you say to stop when you can work properly on a project. I think it's also referring to me with what I was saying before. But into an industry such as Disney, an industry studios such Disney, how can you manage an art block fast?
I think, well, fast. Let's see. I think as far as oh, sorry. I'll just as far as an art block fast,
Yeah.
I would say maybe just step away and just kind of look at other things to try and get inspiration from them. It could be
Yeah.
like in the form of a movie. I would say step away because sometimes when you're kind of in the moment, you're kind of stressed out. You're like,
Yeah.
like, oh. So I would say step away and then start looking at maybe some movies or other inspiring art or design. And then try and figure out what's in there in that art or design that inspires you, that kind of connects you to what you have to work on.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do that. I was going to say, if you're not in a hurry, this is what I usually do too.
Yeah.
I usually just say, step away. It's my bad thing. Step away, go get a nice dinner, drink a beer or wine or tea, or what I like to do is hot chocolate, and just get a good night's sleep. And then
Yeah.
the next day, let's see, and then the next day, you're refreshed.
Yeah.
And then when you're refreshed, then you can see things better.
Yeah.
And you cleared your mind, and then you're better able to do work. You're better able to bring in ideas or work with the ideas that are there
Yes.
and so forth. A lot of times people might think like oh they'll be like they're working on something on their paper and they're looking at it and they're not happy with it, and then they'll be like, oh, it's crap. But the thing is, if you look at it the next day with fresh eyes, say the next eyes, it's another day. Then if you look at the artwork, hey, it wasn't that bad. Okay.
Yeah. You
not
can
that
save something.
it's not that bad, or you can see things. You can be like, there's something there that I could work with, or what was I thinking? And then you're better easy to to see the areas that you need to work on.
Yeah.
So that's provided if you can just spend the night, just think about it. Now, as far as things that are happening immediately, yeah, I would say just kind of step away. You can still step away, but then try and work out the problem. It's like, well, what are you trying to deliver?
Yeah.
And sometimes the delivery could be like information,
Hmm.
detail, or maybe there's something behind that. Like, what's the statement? Oh, like you use these adjectives. It's not scary enough. So then you have to ask yourself, well, what's scary? Or it's not clear enough. Well, what is it that's not clear? Is it the statement, the emotion, the information, the detail?
Yeah.
Um, is it the clarity of the drawing? I don't know. It could be anything, but you maybe you just want to refocus on the target. What is it that you have to focus on, and then because if you don't know, then you're just worrying about a lot of stuff
Yeah.
that you may not have to worry about.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, I will say that stepping away is really restoring, even for because when you are with your eyes like 8 hours in a day on something, you start seeing stuff that it's not in there. So you start seeing if you are in the mood that you already thinking that you are going in the wrong direction, probably you will see whatever you can put in the paper on the Cintiq, you seen like useless, even
yeah,
if it's not, because your mental condition it's like to see everything bad.
yeah,
But after a movie, after a dinner, after a sort of relax, you can see more clearly what is in the paper. You can see bad, but also the good things.
exactly. You have to recharge and reset.
Yeah, and I will say that in the production, the art block can happen a bit more rarely because you are surrounded by other artists, you are surrounded by the project itself, which is not from scratch. I mean,
Yeah,
you have a guide style, a style guide, you have an art director, you have a lot of people involved. So it's at least in my experience, it's very rare that when you are working on something in a production, you have an art block because you have so many influence from the people surrounding you that even get up from your desk when we can finally go back to studio and just have a little discussion with someone can open your eyes on something that you were not thinking 5 minutes before. So
exactly. Yeah, sometimes yeah you get so tunnel vision into one thing. You only look at one thing. It's like, you know what? Step away. Look at somebody else. Look how
yeah.
somebody else might handle it. You sometimes you just need to step away to disconnect from there so you can tune in on something else.
Yeah. I usually do it when I am in studio. Just uh, get up from my desk and go into someone else's desk and ask opinions on the set I'm building or the situation. For example, I talk a lot with the episodic directors in my cases, where the guys are amazing because they know perfectly what's the situation there, what's the story in that precise shot. So you always have a sort of support from the people you are working with, and it's essential for you to don't think you have to do the whole project on your own.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. I mean, you're a part of the project, but yeah, you
yeah.
shouldn't feel like everything relies on
Yeah.
your views. Otherwise, you're the director. That's the director's job.
Yeah. You can start screaming when you became a director.
Yeah, it's like you're not there yet. You're not quite there yet. So
Try to reach before the director role and then you can go crazy. And another question is if you can tell, because there is always NDA in these cases, but can you tell the project are you working on, or it's like still a secret? And the second part of the question is if you have a personal project, which I think you already talked about, is the one with the cat.
yeah, well, the personal project is the one with the cat. Plus, there's a few other ideas I'm working on.
Yeah.
Um, I'm trying to do one about a little girl who has adventures in East LA. So that's one idea.
Hmm.
Another thing I'm kind of kicking around,
Yeah.
well, it has to do with animals. Yeah, unfortunately, I can't say what I'm saying now because of
Yeah.
the NDA.
Yeah.
I can probably mention it in a year and a half, uh, but let's just say that I'm having a lot of fun
Cool.
doing what I'm doing. I'm working with my old production designer, Pete Oswald, on it.
Mm.
I worked with Pete on Angry Birds movie. So I'm
Okay.
working with him on this movie, and I'm working with such a great crew. The project is awesome. I love it. So I'm
Cool.
really excited about it. I mean, I really wish I could say what it is,
Yeah, no,
but
no, I anticipate you because I know that there is always this kind of barrier when you are asking for someone to tell about his project. Yeah. So
it's
yeah.
kind of, but unfortunately, yeah, because of the NDA, yeah. But let's just say that I think people will get excited.
Yeah, I definitely know for sure. Even if I don't know the project, I know that if you are working in, will be amazing.
Thank you.
Okay, I think maybe we can close with this last question. There is something that you don't like about your job. Something like is making some example, like maybe some repetition or stressful time. There's something that you don't like about your job.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes there are well, yeah, I think there are things that kind of not necessarily don't like, but they're maybe they're a little frustrating or challenging. It's maybe when you work. I've worked with certain directors where they don't know what they want,
Yeah.
and they'll just say draw something until I know what it is, which
Mhm.
is kind of they don't give you good direction. So I could be I'm drawing blind. So what we do as artists and designers, we need targets. So
Yeah.
sometimes when you don't know what you have to draw, then you don't know if you're going to get there or not. So in that case, what happens is you have to step up as an artist, as a designer, and ask the right questions to get to where you want to do.
Yeah.
Like for example, let's see, so you can see me. For example, if you're designing a house and the director says, "Oh, I need this house," it's like, okay, well, if you, hopefully there's a script there so it can give you more information, but you want to ask the director, well, what kind of house is it? Is it a Victorian house? Is it a building? Is there some kind of architectural element that we have to consider? Is it the first floor? Is there a second floor? Is it an apartment? Or is it an actual house that has a backyard?
Yeah.
Are these people rich? Are they poor? What time of year does this take place? Because something in winter, you have to worry about the elements. Is there snow? Are things dry? Or is it super hot? Is it in the desert? Um, you know, um, what city are we in? And even in the city, there's different parts of the city based on class and money. Do
Yeah.
these people have money? Do they not have money? Is this a really new house or is it an old house that's falling apart? Um, all of these things you want to ask again to help fit the target.
Yeah.
And also you want to ask yourself, well, what's happening in the scene? Uh, because that way, if you're a background designer, you know about space. If you need to provide space, somebody has to jump out of a window. Well, you have to add a window. It's like, well, where should I add the window? Are they jumping out of
Yeah.
one room to another? I mean, things you have to know. So
Yeah.
you have to ask all those questions. That's one part of that can be frustrating, but then you just have to just kind of step up to ask those questions, and then sometimes it's like when you're working on something for a long time. Sometimes it's easy to lose the love for
Yeah.
for. So I know
Yeah.
for TV's a lot faster, so I haven't really felt that for TV. I felt it more for feature because feature has longer schedules.
Yeah.
So I could be working on something for several months. So it's that can be challenging. Then that's when you have to keep finding the love. You have to keep finding things that are interesting, so
Yeah.
you can
But
target that.
I also think at the end of the day, this is a job. So for special that we can consider it, it's still a job. So it's also natural to don't enjoy every single second of your timing working on something because i- it's a routine. I mean, you have the first approach where everything is great, but then you slowly approach the pipeline and the schedule. So you need to face repetition, you need to face questioning with your colleagues, you need
Yeah.
to face all of the other jobs aspect that are also in this one. So it's totally fine if you don't smile every single second. You are allowed to be sad even if you are enjoying the project. So
I mean, you're human, all right?
yeah,
So, it's like, not everything's going to be, fruity, smiley, happy. Hey, we're human. We get affected by what's happening in our lives and what's happening
exactly.
to news and stuff, and that's okay. Work is work. Leave work at work if you can.
Yeah,
Work your solid 8 hours, and then leave it alone.
yeah,
And then anything you do after that, do it for you.
yeah,
And if you don't want to work, that's fine. Recharge, be a person, live life, and engage and stuff
yeah.
like that. And
Mhm.
always, try and take care of yourself
Yeah,
because this job is stressful, as you know. It's like, this job can be physically and emotionally stressful because, you know, it's a competitive field and you're always being judged because
yeah,
we have art review, we always have to show our work. I mean, but the thing is, it's like, that's okay. I know a lot of people can easily kind of internalize all that and they just kind of get stressed out, and they have imposter syndrome and they feel like,
yeah,
uh, they put on the weight of the world on their shoulders. It's going to be okay. um, you know, you always have to take care of yourself mentally and physically.
yeah,
Think of it as a marathon. You have to condition yourself and take care of yourself to go the long while. Don't burn out.
yeah,
They're only paying you for 8 hours. Only work 8 hours. That
yeah,
means you have to work smart. You're always going to working hard, but working smart. So rather than come up with like, and people say like, well, what does that mean? Well, it's like if you're doing a design, instead of doing 50 or 100 designs for one thing, do 8 or 10 or 7. Within those 7, you can show range.
yeah,
Uh, if you do 80 or 10, it's like you're spinning your wheels. It's
mhm,
like, you're not really focused on a target. You're just kind of just drawing and drawing and drawing. And some of these things might look like each other, or
yeah,
there's not enough range. You can find enough range in a smaller amount. Use your reference before you actually show something. Use reference first, so that way you don't spend the time drawing. The reference will help you, like, okay, do you like this? Okay, and you like that? Cool. Then from those you have things to shoot for,
yeah,
stuff like that. Start small. Don't go to town doing something pretty in the front. No, do something in pieces, in stages. Do something rough but clear, that's strong. And then once it gets approved, then you go to the next level, which
yeah,
is more love and more detail. Don't go all at once. I know some people like to try and impress and go all the way. It's like, yeah, but it's going to change,
yeah,
because the director needs to have their input on it, you know, and you also have to serve what story is. Story might change.
yeah,
So, take it in baby steps. Again, this is Project Runway. So, what we do is Project Runway. We go in, we don't know what we're going to design. Okay, you need to design this by this time.
yeah,
And so, okay, then you got to figure it out and then take the steps necessary to get there.
yeah,
Don't burn out. Don't, try and use the time wisely. And yeah, just it's that's the challenge. So, again, yeah, take care of yourself. Don't burn out because it's easy to.
yes,
And you just have to just kind of maneuver through this with your interest in mind. Your interest in mind is taking care of you, and
yeah.
that's
That's really precious, and also because yeah, we need also to live in order to tell stories because
yeah,
if you are not living a life, going travel, do different type of experiences, it's hard to tell someone else an emotion or an experience. So it's also from you. It's also for study. You need to go travel for study.
exactly. Live life. I mean, have adventures. I
Yeah.
mean, that doesn't mean like go out, and travel around the world. If you can do that, fine. Some people might not have the money or
Yeah. No.
resources.
Of course. Yeah.
You know what? Go to your city, go to your town, uh, go for walks, meet people, join clubs, go get coffee and intermingle and be an observer and stuff like that. The reason is all that stuff that you live in life, you're gonna take that and need that when you do your work.
Yeah.
Because when when you're a storyboard artist or a designer, they're gonna say, well, we need to tap into something emotionally. We always tap into ourselves. So you have to bring what you know in there. When someone's, if you're a storyboard artist and they say like, well, this is the most embarrassing moment of this person's life. Well, then tap into what was your embarrassing moment.
Yeah.
And then right away, how that person that you have to storyboard, that character, how they feel. Probably they came in and then something dreadful happened, and all that embarrassment, all that pressure and stuff what they're feeling, you now have that connection.
Yeah.
Now, with that arsenal, that knowledge, you can put it in that character, and it becomes true. It becomes honest. Then people can relate.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But that's not you relating. So,
Absolutely. Okay. I was saying before the last, but this one can interest you. Do you have any online courses or mentorships?
not at the moment. I am mentoring, but it's only a small group of folks that I've already been talking about. So,
Okay.
That's just kind of what I do. I'm going to teach a course, an online course through the Animation Collaborative. It's happening in fall. I'm going to post more information on that on my Facebook.
Okay.
So if people go to my Facebook and maybe my Instagram, I'll share information about that. I believe it's going to happen in September.
Okay.
And then I'm slowly working on doing a course for schoolism. So I'm working on that. So, and then also I've been thinking about doing this for a while, and I might do that. It's all about time and when I could do it.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking about putting the stuff I've done on workshops and stuff, maybe sharing that online with folks, just because right now is a weird time, and I know a lot of people, they being indoors, having cabin fever, and maybe the times that are, people are stressing out. I want to let them know that it's going to be okay, and maybe I can share little bits of what I've experienced that they can kind of do. So I'm thinking in the not too near future about sharing maybe stuff that I've shared or stuff I've seen and these little things. But yeah, that'll probably happen pretty soon. But yeah, I think that's it as far as what I have online.
Perfect. John, we reached the end of the live. Was been an adventure. I really enjoyed having you as a guest, and I want to say again, thank you so much for everything, for being so kind, for being such a good person, and I hope you guys also enjoy the live. And I will leave you, John, to salute you, and then we can close the live.
That sounds good. Thank you, Carmine, for this wonderful opportunity and just this time for me to share my experiences and my stories and stuff. I really appreciate that. And for anyone out there, there's so much out there. Opportunities that are waiting for you. That doesn't mean they're guaranteed. That means they're just there and they're waiting for you. And now it's up to you to kind of like kick ass, continue to kick ass, and always keep learning and expanding and challenging yourself, and to become the best artist, designer, storyteller that you can be. Yeah. So don't give up. It's easy to give up, and it takes time. It's not an overnight thing. I wish it was, but it wasn't. But if things were so easy, you wouldn't have needed school. You wouldn't have needed anything else.
Exactly.
So what we work in this is all based on talent. Anything that requires talent, it's tough, it's hard, it's competitive.
Yeah.
So you have to raise your game. So that means consistently work at your craft and consistently expand and challenge yourself. That means drawing stuff outside of your comfort zone. That's okay. Still draw in your comfort zone, but then challenge yourself.
Yeah.
And still go through the same phases you would. Draw like you have the job already. Keep working on your book. Be a filmmaker. What we do for film. So just because you go to art school, consider the film aspect of it. So start looking at film, start looking at cinema, start looking at movies now, start looking at movies before CGI. Start looking at how directors were creative with the camera. Start looking at directors who were creative because of their limitations. If you look at really quickly, if you look at the first Alien movie by Ridley Scott,
Yeah. Amazing.
you only saw the alien in the last 10 minutes, but throughout the movie, you felt the alien.
Yeah.
Now,
Exactly.
ask yourself as a visual person, why? So a lot of it was reaction. It's what you saw. It's what you didn't see. It's the shadows, the silhouettes. It's the pacing. It's the long, drawn out shots. It's someone in a big thing. It's that feeling, that tension. All that feeling, that was designed.
Yeah.
Okay? Study that. Be a student of that, because you're gonna be in a role where you have to provide that for whatever movie you have to. It could be scary, it could be happy, it could be sad, anything. Anyway, tap into film. You don't necessarily have to go to film school. Just start looking at film and start looking at scenes in a movie. Scenes in a movie are mini movies within a movie. The scenes. Study the beginning, the middle, and end. Look at the choices of what the director made. Turn the sound off. Look at it and ask yourself, why am I watching what I'm watching, and why am I feeling what I'm feeling?
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
then you'll be in tune to that emotion and experience and what people do for film. That is it. You know, you're an artist and designer, but now think of yourself as a filmmaker, as a
Yeah.
storyteller. So you have to tune into that. You know, you can find that from movies, documentaries, commercials, trailers. We just me and my wife are looking at that Netflix show. What is it? The baking show that has to do from England.
Ah, okay. Yeah. Bake Off.
The Bake Off. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Entertaining, beautiful. But there are moments in there that they really bring in the tension. And if
Yeah.
you know, when they're trying, you know, when someone's making their cake, and then, you know, it's editing. It's how they edit something to make things dramatic. And
Yeah.
then at the end, it's like, well, we have to eliminate someone. And then, you know, like the final two people who you think are going to get eliminated, close up shots, long pauses. You see
Yeah.
the judges, you know, they're slowly saying what they're saying. You cut to reaction shots. That's editing. That's filmmaking. They're bringing in tension. They're making people sit on the edge of their seat like, oh my God, what's going to happen?
Yeah. Exactly.
So it's like you can see that in commercials and trailers and all that stuff. Tune into all this stuff. This is just a big education on what we do. So yeah. So that I'll leave it at that. So I
Perfect.
encourage people to continue doing what they're doing, and I truly wish you the best. I really want everyone out there to know that there are opportunities out there, and I want them to have those opportunities. It requires work, but again, welcome to the industry. This is what we do.
Exactly. So, guys, see you next time.
See you next time. Bye
And
bye. Thank you, Carmine.
thank you. Bye, John.
Bye bye. Thank you.